Hey heisters, the Payday 3 here. Payday is in a bit of a weird state, and it's all thanks to Starbreeze Studios. The release of Payday 3 was awful, with people queuing up for hours just to try and play the game at all. And people were funding the game in droves mere hours after release. But Payday 3's problems extend far beyond its initial launch issues, and the damage it's caused reaches past just the game itself, but Payday collectively, as well as Starbreeze themselves. So let's go over the whole game and really just pick it apart, you know, just rip into this thing and decide, is it really dead in the water, or is there still hope left for this huge fumble of a game? And we're going to be covering the things they fixed, the newest content, and some of the bugs and issues the game has overall. The first mission of Payday 3 is called No Rest for the Wicked, a pretty fitting name considering I'm having to play Payday 3 to make this video. It's a pretty standard bank heist as you would expect, so let's just load in and now you may think, what's wrong here? It's just a regular mission screen. Well, for comparison, let's look at Payday 2's mission screen. Can you notice a difference? The crime net screen is probably the most iconic part of Payday 2. It's super stylized as well as practical. It gives you the option of inspecting which lobbies you want to join, showing the amount of players in the lobby, the difficulty, and the mission itself. Plus, it just looks super cool. Whereas in Payday 3, you get the most generic possible menus. They're legitimately just missing features that became synonymous with Payday's image from Payday 2. Something that will happen a lot more as this video goes on. The level itself has two approaches, as typical for Payday: stealth and loud. Stealth is fairly standard bank heisting without being sighted. When you go to a lockpick door, however, you're met with a new skill check menu, which I'd say is a pretty big improvement over the original watch a circle bar move, because you actually have to engage a bit. There's also a new camera tool you can use at key points to see when NPCs are moving in order to avoid them better. That's a pretty good improvement. And finally, they did the unthinkable. You can open and close doors. This is truly revolutionary. But if you're just starting the game, just don't bother with stealthing, because without a suppressed weapon, it's going to be a damn near psychological horror to even attempt stealth. Especially if you're new to the game, or if, like me, you're just terrible at stealth in any game. So naturally this meant I went loud. Going loud in Payday is always where most of the fun is, in my opinion. While stealth is fun, doing only stealth means you don't experience most of the loadouts and perks, not to mention all the quirky builds Payday is famous for, like the Angry Dad Alcoholic with dual shotguns build, and who can forget the dodging bullets in a suit build, a personal favorite of mine. We can get to the builds later though. Enemies in Payday are just waves of policemen with varying levels of armor depending on the stage of the raid they're at. The beginning dudes are just your basic city police and security guards, whereas they get full riot armor after a while, which is pretty standard in every Payday game. But in Payday 3 they changed things up a bit with the variants. Firstly, all variants can spawn at any difficulty, whereas in Payday 2, if you're on little baby mode, you only get little baby enemies like the shields or the tasers. See, real men, they play on 3 scores or higher because that's where the chads spawn. These two guys are so iconic. Even if you haven't played Payday, you've probably heard their voices before, but they got some pretty big changes in addition to everything else. The Dozer in Payday 3 is back to his immortal self. Payday 2, if you had even a remotely decent build, you could just run him down and burst him in one clip, whereas now he's a force to be reckoned with. He's tankier, he packs way more of a punch. This guy is an oppressive force of police brutality. He's the human equivalent of the Killdozer itself, making waiting for the thermite to burn into the vault in this mission even more brutal. And Cloakers, their voice actor changed, and he just looks less cool. So yeah, they downgraded. Once you've burned into the vault, however, you have a limited amount of time to disable the die packs, or the money will be worthless. But there's one small problem at this point in the game. I was playing with only bots, so naturally, a ton of it got wasted. And if there's one thing I love in life, it's money. I'm sorry, my darling. Taking the money, you'll have to wait for the getaway driver. And sometimes you'll have to disable roadblocks by messing with nearby power boxes so he can actually get there. And once he gets there, you throw the money bags into the back and then you leave. Pretty standard affair. And once you're done, you get your rewards. But here's another big problem. The initial system of progression in Payday 3 sucked so badly. Instead of earning XP for the mission you completed, you'd earn it by completing challenges, not unlike how Halo Infinite used to do it. Now, my question is, why even bother? At the start, it's not that bad of a problem because it's easy to do a ton of challenges without even trying. But later on, it limits your ability to play the game the way you want, because in order to level up, you have to use all the different kinds of weapons, even if you don't enjoy using them, and play in ways you don't enjoy at all, instead of just leveling up by playing the way you like in Payday 2. Thankfully, they reverted this change back to just XP, but this feature alone likely drove away a ton of first-time players. Regardless, with some of the money we earned completing that mission, we're able to buy new equipment. This ranges from primary to secondary guns to new masks, new outfits and gadgets, but there's just one small problem. It's pretty slim pickings out here. There's not many weapons for low levels, and even the overall entire arsenal of Payday 3 is just like a page's worth of weapons in Payday 2. Plus, they're all just kind of simple. There's nothing super flashy like the cool akimbo shotguns or the flamethrower. Even the comically large spoon isn't here. All of these things had so much character and were just fun to use, and now it's just like Call of Booty loadouts, you know? Of course, I'm a fair man. I'm willing to admit it's a very unfair comparison. A game that's been supported for 10 plus years versus a new one that came out less than a year ago. It's a pretty unfair comparison, but I'm still going to compare them from a player's perspective, because that's the stuff that matters. Even if Payday 3 will get more content in the future, currently in this aspect, Payday 2 is just a superior product. But that's just a game theory.
Give it back!
The next mission requires stopping an armored transport on a bridge, hijacking it, and stealing the contents. I have a massive hate boner for this mission for so many reasons. The first is because the mission is, in my opinion, pretty boring. You essentially just stand next to the truck for most of the mission until you reach a certain point to get the contents out of the truck. Meaning you're not going to be able to just roam around taking out cops, which is more fun, obviously. But you may say, since it's a 4-player co-op, surely you could just take turns on the truck with each other, right? So everyone has a bit of fun. Very valid point, my friend. But one small problem. What players?
Oh, that's a lot of money, eh? The barnacles! Oh no, me heart stopped!
Payday 3 is about as dead as a door now. Finding other players is just about impossible without matchmaking mods. Hey, Jay from the future here. They actually updated the game and changed this around. We'll explain it more later, but for now, it's not like this anymore. But it will give you a good idea of how it used to be, so I'm keeping it in. Okay, bear in mind, every time you load into a mission in Payday 3, it matchmakes you for at least 1 minute, and in that time, I have never once joined someone else's lobby or had someone join me during this loading screen. So if you're dumb enough to buy this game like I am, you'll be playing solo almost exclusively, unless your buddy lost a bet and has to play with you. This means that any given objective in the game is your responsibility, as the bots just can't do them. They don't even count as being in proximity to the van. So you'll essentially be doing the work of 4 players at any given point in any given mission. Right now, it's kind of a major issue, but with some other objectives they added unique to Payday 3, it's even more boring and tedious to have to do as a solo, especially in stealth, but don't worry, we'll get there. Other than that, this mission isn't really that bad. I'm just hugely biased against it because I almost beat it and then the servers kicked me out. So I re-attempted it, and since I was really bored playing it, I upped the difficulty by 1. And then I failed it right at the end because it was too hard. That's it, I'm murdering one of the comments. That second one is my fault, I'll admit, okay, but I'm biased, okay? I'm biased gaming time. The mission's fine, alright? I just don't like it, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. I'll hate it. The next mission is to rob a jewelry store, and this, I fought with this heavy. It's a lot more in line with some of the better missions from Payday 2, as you can process the jewelry with this sorting machine or whatever, and it increases the worth of the loot. Or you can just take it raw, so you get the choice to stay longer for better rewards or leave faster for less rewards. It's also generic like the first heist, but in a more charming and fun way, I feel. You know it's a good mission when I kill myself with a grenade launcher, and instead of groaning about having to play the mission again, I just laugh about how dumb that was. Oh, and speaking about, I completely forgot to mention the overkill weapons. They're another new addition, and one I have mixed feelings on. On one hand, yeah, it's really cool to call in the grenade launcher after the bar fills up and just destroy some cop hole. But on the other hand, these heavy mega kill weapons are like just regular weapons in the previous game. And the plural of that is kind of an exaggeration here. Guess how many overkill weapons there are? There's 2, there's only 2. Now call me crazy. I much prefer using my akimbo shotguns with flamethrower secondary, with the potential of a minigun RPG secondary loadout, over generic primary, and several flavors of pistol, and then using the overkill weapon like for a minute every mission. But that's just my monkey ape brain. Okay, I see big gun and I equate that to having fun. Maybe a little too much. And the fact is, instead of using it, I have to do a whole ass trek to grab it, just to use up the ammo in the same amount of time it took me to run over and grab it. So let's compare, shall we? Let's compare the grenade launcher in Payday 3 and the grenade launcher in Payday 2 and see which is more convenient to use. That being said, I still like using the grenade launcher. I'm sure with tweaks and more overkill weapons added, like the minigun, my beloved flamethrower, it could even feel better than in Payday 2 if they made the overkill weapons a bit more powerful as a trade-off for the timer and the location. They added this in an attempt to make it more realistic, but right now, I actually just prefer using my primary as it's less hassle. The next mission is called Rock the Cradle, and here we have to steal some rich guy's crypto wallet from a swanky nightclub. Oh, yeah. This is more my style, baby. This mission's aesthetic carries it really hard. I mean, who doesn't love a nightclub level in a game? Come on, you can go stealth and loud here, like the others. You're incentivized to do this one stealthy, as you get a better payout this way. If you're detected, the crypto drive gets wiped, meaning all your funny meme coins are sent into the void, meaning you can no longer call yourself a crypto bro, which is probably a good thing. Well, 5 minutes in and another failed stealth attempt later, we must grab the bags of loot from the VIP areas and break into the vault. We can do this by drilling into the private area and then opening safes to find potential codes for the keypad so we can get the mega loot. Then it's just a case of getting the bags back upstairs and into a crane you can build somehow and hoist it out of there. But wait, the police have brought one of, if not their strongest asset, a minivan with a dish sellotaped to the top. This is truly shivering my timbers. The FBI van acts as a less cool Sergeant Winters, making the current police assault last endlessly until you go outside and shoot down its antenna, which is totally way cooler than this guy coming in with a small army of shield dudes just screaming at you the whole time. This is just questionable. Like, why replace this with the Minecrafter's white van? I don't get it. You had a perfectly good and cool feature already, and you actually made yourself do more work to make it less cool and fun. Then again, doesn't that sum up this entire game? But the answer to that question is yes. One thing I've also failed to mention so far is the presentation of Payday 3, or rather the music, because man, the music on this level goes crazy. Payday always has good music, and I think Payday 3 is pretty in line with this. Now, are there any bangers like Razor Mind or I'll Give You Mail? No, but how can you compete with perfection? It's still got a damn good soundtrack if I say so. This will indeed go in my Reddit Gaming OST playlist. Give me a lobotomy. The next mission is kind of a weird one, frankly. Undersurface. Is that right? Am I saying that? It's very similar to the gallery heist from Payday 2. You have to steal a certain amount of paintings as the main loot and can take the rest as bonus loot. You can cut a circular hole in the glass like any good heist movie, and in order to get into the gallery rooms, you have to use these QR codes from the phones of the guards, or just phones you can find lying around the place. A feature Payday 3 uses quite a lot, surprisingly. I just haven't mentioned it yet because I didn't want to. Simple as that. What are you gonna do about it? But this isn't the only thing we have to do. We must partake in another mechanic, and it is, perhaps, nay, perchance, one of the worst features I've ever seen. We have to hack the security bars by standing in circles. So basically, these bad boys are all over the map, and each one takes a decent amount of time to do. But not only this, filling one up only fills up the requirement bar a small amount, meaning you have to do this a lot of times as a collective in order to progress the objectives, right? Now, at a glance, this is just similar to the basic holding F on something to do it, but let me assure you, this is way worse. I would prefer this to the circles because they take so long and there's no tension. I just have to sort of sit there awkwardly like a kid on the naughty corner, and I hate it. Now you may say, get your teammates to do it. What teammates? This game is dead. The game is dead. I'm tweaking. The worst part is these Burger King rings aren't even unique to this mission. They're in multiple missions, meaning I'm gonna end it all right now. This is why I was complaining so much about the bridge mission, because this is just pure filler. This is padding. This is mission padding. I hate it. I hate it. Anyway, once that's complete and you're actually in the gallery, you'll need to use this UV light in order to ID the paintings you need, as they're marked with these blood spatters for some weird modern art reason. You know how it is. Overall, the heist is pretty to me. I don't really feel too strongly either way about it, which to me and my pretentious brain makes me look down on it even more, because as the wise man Diogenes once said, whether something be amazing or awful, at least it elicited a reaction, unlike the mid-ass gallery level in Payday 3. Truly a wise man, rest his soul. Next up is the Golden Shark heist, which serves as a much more standard bank heist. The first one was more like a local bank, and this is more like a bank that the John Club would rob that one time. This one is so much better than the first. We have to steal a server, and you guessed it, money from a bank, and we can sneak in once again, but the stealth in this mission, way more fun than that stinky bank mission, I tell you that. Well, that was simple, just purely to be simple. This one is like simply perfect, okay? It's generic in the best way, in a Payday way. This is certainly one of the missions I replay the most. That's right, sometimes I replay Payday 3, okay? I'm a bit of a freak, I get freaky. Oh yeah, I think I forgot to mention up until now. What are these weird symbols that have been popping up on the screen all the time? Well, you see, my beloved, beautiful, gorgeous viewer. These are the new perk systems in action, which is kind of similar, kind of completely different to the old one. It's been simplified down by adding these 3 states of grit, rush, and edge. Go on, get the bad jokes out into the comments already. The majority of the perks hinge on these states and the effects they give, such as increased reload times. But the main problem I have with them is they're just less cool. Okay, I won't lie, it's mainly because I miss my old Dodge build and the alcoholic build. Man, they were staples. I used them all the time. How is Joker Dodge gonna play the game now? Not only is his drip mid, but he doesn't even have his iconic perks or the super epic weapons. So what you want, but I loved zooming around a map using the most busted weapons possible. That's just me, you know, I'm quirked up. What you're meant to do, build on these states by using the perk trees to change what they do, like adding effects, as well as adding more ways to trigger them. But I mean, there's no flask perk, so it's a 0 out of 10 from me. But overall, Golden Sharks, it feels like a remix of several bank heists from Payday 2, but in the best of ways, taking all the good stuff from them, as well as offering a pretty fun stealth option. It reminds me of my beloved Diamond heist. Oh yes, oh so good, I loved it so much. The next heist is a pretty weird one, 99 boxes. We need to steal some hi-fi tech parts from a cargo container container yard so they can be sold to make Nintendo DS's or something. The depot has a set of refrigerated trucks they use to transport the DS parts because it's such high tier tech, such revolutionary machinery. Its quality decays if not below freezing temps, making it worth less, which means if we don't make preparations, we'll effectively be stealing scrap from Metal Man Dave's latest finds in the dumpster bin instead of the high tech we came for. So in order to avoid this, we have to steal one of these trucks and set up the liquid nitrogen coolant so we can steal the thing we actually came for. Now that we got the exit strategy set up, however, we have to use the laptop in order to find which containers have the stuff we need. Once you're in the shipping yard, you have to find a certain numbered container within a section of the area like the eastern side, and you can find this out by looking at the numbering on the floor. It took me 10 minutes to figure that out. Come on, we know who we're dealing with here. I'm just a guy. Now, if you think that's bad, guess what? It still took me another 10 minutes to find the container. I didn't know they could be high up, okay? I thought it was all ground level. Man, it's so up. Once you find the container, you need to apply a thermite charge onto the door to break through, and once we're through, we get more Burger King rings to stand in to breach the security. Yippee. At least this level has got more banger music. We break through and grab the gear, and this starts a timer that begins to degrade the tech until we shove it into the freezing van, and as it degrades, it becomes worth less and less, and lessens the reward. You have to do this twice, and then get the truck ready to ship, but the cops will follow us if we just go straight away, so we deploy a spike strip to slow them down, so the getaway is successful, and then the mission ends. This one pretty good, I gotta say. Maybe even a little underrated. I'll give it an explosive iPhone edition out of the DS where the top half has been ripped off. And now we reach the final new mission of Payday 3. Touch the Sky, and it's my favorite. It's the only heist I will replay exclusively for the stealth, because I find the stealth on this mission just so fun. The stealth version is superior to the loud version every time. But before we get to that, I got more complaints. See, this mission, I wanted to do stealth, right? I needed to equip a silencer. So when I joined a lobby after waiting 1 minute for no reason, thank you Payday 3, I tried to equip it onto my pistol from the pre-lobby loadout screen. But guess what? You can't change attachments in a lobby. But I had to back out the lobby, re-equip the attachment I needed, then re-queue up, wait for the game to realize it's dead, put me into a new lobby by myself, and then ready up again, instead of just a 10-second switch. Come on, Payday. How did you fumble this? God, I just hate this game. Let's keep playing it. The mission is to sneak into this guy's penthouse and steal his hard drive. I don't know what's on it. He looks like a Minecraft YouTuber. So it's probably... My lawyer advised me I do not finish this joke. So let's move on. We need to sneak in from an air conduction pathway to sneak past the doorman. And from there, we drop down onto the second floor. From here, you'll have to avoid guards and cameras and find your way into the master bedroom and access the panic room with all the goods inside. And oh boy, even more onion ring. I'm gonna get you. Once we break into the bedroom, we pull these books comedically until there's a switch that opens the vault panel behind the wooden panels, and we place a drill down, so now we have to wait for it to complete. And when we do, we get inside and can find 4 different randomly generated codes to unlock the panic room, as well as some loot. And oh my god, it happened. A player joined my game. That's right, I finally got a teammate after beating every other new level for the first time, and he really knew what he was doing. To be honest, I'm still stunned anyone actually chose to play Payday 3. And when I learned that he had actually installed a whole ass third-party software just to play matches in the game like normal, I giggled a bit. Alright, it's wonderful. We get the SSD and we open to the panic room. So now all we had to do was decode the hard drive to get to the questionable materials inside it, as well as bagging up the loot. Once the drive is done, me and my newfound brother waited for the getaway helicopter to arrive. But in the end, we finished the mission, and as we returned to lobby, I was excited to finally play with another person, even if it was just for one more match. No, please don't leave me. Don't make me solo queue more Payday 3, man. Please. He was magnificent, and I'll never forget him. Goodbye, random Payday 3 player. What's his name? I'm not saying all that. Now that's all the base game done, and the majority of how the game used to be explained. Now originally, I had a whole different ending segment for this video planned, and even edited, but you see, viewer, the devs, they made some updates, and they've kind of changed everything and set the game on the right path. Wish they'd have done that, you know, before I'd edited all. First off, we have the Syntax DLC, which was met with hate, as it was an $18 DLC with only 3 guns, 1 heist, and some cosmetics. But as we previously discussed, there's been a few more pressing matters for the game than this. So when it dropped, they still hadn't even changed the progression back to XP from challenges, and people were pissed. And here's the kicker, between that DLC and this newest one that just came out, there were some changes. First off, the progression, as I said earlier, but then boom, a quick play option for matchmaking, meaning that this small ass fan base was less segmented. And now, when you try and find a match, you can actually find people without mods, even if the matchmaking times are still awful. But I mean, I'll take what I can get, okay? It's still better than when I played the game before. Originally, I would say 70% of the experience was miserable playing originally. Don't play a co-op game when no one's there to co-op. Worst mistake of my life. But as you try to play now, there's tons of teammates to play with, meaning the game becomes a lot more fun to play than I showed you. It gets even better, you see, because of this, the Boys in Blue DLC, adding new content and features as well as doing this. The player base is healing. Earlier I showed the average player count. Well, this Bad Boys DLC has had a huge spike in player count and is actually kind of remaining kind of steady, likely because of the quality of life improvements they've offered that are making people actually enjoy the game. That's not to say everything's fixed. For instance, in order to join a non-match made mission, you have to lock in to being offline. So if you don't want to sit there and wait for the lobby and want to make your own, guess what? No teammates. See what I mean with this weird ass design decisions? Like, couldn't you have just done this for the match made version? Like, and also the game will randomly mess with your resolution for no reason at all and window itself out from time to time. No idea why, but hey, could be worse. Could be the release Payday 3. And now we have an actual idea of some of the improvements. What about these DLCs? Do I really have to buy them? Please guys, don't make me buy. Fine. This had better be good. Alright, I'm not going to go into too much detail on them. Frankly, this video is getting too long for my liking. And here's my de facto rating for each one. Syntax Error is a pretty fun heist compared to some of the base ones. I'd say it's better than some of them, but only by a small margin. And it's also introduced the drone controller enemy type, which would later be added to every other heist in the game, so that's pretty cool. And as for the Boys in Blue, I can see the appeal. It's pretty fun. Definitely the most unique mission in Payday 3. The stealth was great. The weapons that come with it are all pretty fun, especially that revolver that one taps cops to the body. Just some really meaty hits. Plus, it's like the only positively rated thing about the game currently, so that's something. The cosmetics for both DLCs, I mean, they're okay. Not really my thing. I'm just going to use Hoxton's base skin the whole time, I think. And now I will say that these two additions and improved matchmaking, whilst they do help the game, it's still not in a great state. Things like the overkill weapons still feel rushed or unfinished, and a lack of content in general. But I mean, it's definitely a step in the right direction, and it helps us see the greater picture that is Payday 3's continued development. It's just a shame it launched in such a mess, as most games do, and then they just think, yeah, I'll cobble this back together. You know, come on guys, release it finished, release it! I still think though, Payday 2 is the better game and product, and that Payday 3 is merely just an option for people that are bored of Payday 2, as Payday 2 is far greater value for money for the average consumer. And Payday 3 still remains a bit jank, you know, you're prone to just getting stuck in infinite searches, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just some dude saying this. So in conclusion, sped up gif of James Sunderland grabbing a neck rope with the caption of "No sloppy."